is more problematic than the deal itself. Now, obviously, Papa John, being the face of the company and the name of the company, probably has more. I use the word on it without meaning to mean what it means, but value or presence or whatever in the United States. People here don't really know who the guy behind the brand is, really. Probably see him as some sort of caricature, probably aren't aware that he stepped down because of racism or racist comments or and stuff like that. Hey, he might sell a fuckload more pizzas to all the people who won't see these highlights because they've forsaken our sport now because our sport wants to be anti-racist, so maybe, Papa John's trying to tap into that market, but I doubt it.
Yeah, Papa John's is doing great business in the Wakefield area.
But I doubt it, and I think I do think, there's some problematics there with this organisation. But at the same time, they were seen to do the right thing by him stepping down and stepping away from the company. So, what can you do when you make mistakes? You suffer consequences. But that, to me, is more a problematic question than the other aspects. That's a more legitimate line of inquiry towards the Super League. Whilst we're trying to take this approach, is this the right company to be doing a deal with? But I think we've got a totally different take to most people's. We've delivered a different take to this than most people have delivered, because I'm not as offended by it as other people are, but by the deal, not by the company.
I think the problem isn't the deal here. The problem is the expression and the communication. It's the communication from Super League, and that press release has just botched it. If they said we've agreed a well-known. I mean, I don't know what level in terms of brand index Papa John's are, but I bet you if you asked people to name sports brands versus name, I think more people will be able to name Papa John's as a brand than would name Super League or any rugby league club. So actually, from that sort of point of view, and that's the kind of, in terms of getting eyeballs on us, it's worth more.
Yeah, there's also an association with other sports fans, isn't there? Because Papa John's, Domino's, that sort of thing get advertised heavily.
Yeah, and Papa John's did a sponsorship deal with the Football League for a while. So if your team won, you got 50% off. So I remember a particularly successful season for Brentford where I ate a lot of Papa John's pizza because we kept winning. But they did a big deal, and it could be that had we not all reacted like twats, that this is the sort of thing that we might be able to have gotten next year.
Well, I think this was what it was supposed to be, like trying to start a relationship, trying to demonstrate what kind of cut through for your brand that our sport can deliver. But Rugby League never misses an opportunity to miss an opportunity is what people cleverer than me have said recently, quite regularly. Our friend on one of our friend podcasts, and I think this is another example of it. We've botched it. We've botched a positive story we've botched a positive happening that could have led to a positive, even more positive development.
At the time when sponsors are dropping out left, right, and centre for things, a new one coming out of the woodwork is something to be celebrated. And the fact they've got a deal across.
Yeah. Stop tweeting Papa John's and saying you must be a bunch of fucking muppets for dealing with a bunch of fucking muppets like the RFL. One, this isn't the RFL who's done this deal, and two, that does not help our sport.
Not at all, but there we go.
Okay, people, make sure you look out for links to the Google form for fan views on the week's news, though. I tried to tweet it out a couple of times this week. Hopefully people can start seeing that. And do visit Love Rugby League, Total RL, 4020 News, their website to get all the latest Rugby League news. And then when you see the stories on there, drop us your views on them, and it makes a more rounded conversation when we talk about it. But like we said, it was going to be a news-heavy show. Maybe it was a deep pan. Yeah.
Yeah. So
we've all taken an extra slice.
We certainly got some cut through.
We're now going to move on to a slice of Challenge Cup action. we're into the Challenge Cup match reviews then. It was round 6. We only had one game, as we've talked about at length before, so no need to go over that. We'll get the second game of round 6 in a couple of weeks' time. This game, we don't have stats, unfortunately, on the Challenge Cup action, so we're just going to cover off the score, really. It was Wakefield 24, Catalans 36, after being 20 points to 6 in favour of the Catalans at half-time. Chris Kendall was the referee. We had tries from a hat-trick from David Mead, Fuad Yahar, Benjamin Garcia, and Matt Whitley were the other try scorers for the Catalans. Meanwhile, Jay Pitts / Max Jowett, we think it's Jay Pitts, and
so watching it live, I thought it was Jowett. I thought Jowett had got there, but then when I watched the replay, I wasn't sure.
Tinarau, Bright Eyes Arona, and Jacob Miller were the other try scorers for Wakefield. Scoreline looked close in the end. I don't know that the game felt that way. We got a couple of fan views on this one only, which is remarkable for a game on BBC on Saturday afternoon. But there you have it. Do you want to give us the first one? It didn't even come from someone who could have watched it on the BBC on a Saturday afternoon.
It comes from Carlston, who said the first 20 minutes brought back memories of ice skating, and the players missed the opponent's social distance of 6 handbags in a brawl. Drinkwater's short kicks are deadly, but Tupu showed the other clubs how to handle Izzy.
And Dr. Hideous said, banging, they slacked off a bit at the end when the game was comfortably won, but the Catalans' defence won this. They kept driving Wakey back in tackles, so Wakefield had few scoring opportunities. The Wakey defence, on the other hand, couldn't stop Catalans from driving forward. Is Jacob Miller trying to grow a tash? It's shit. Facial hair reviews there from Dr. Hideous, always welcome. In fact, I would say insisted upon that we get more of those as the year progresses. Who were your star men from this game then? Who did you pick out?
Well, I thought for the first probably about half an hour, I thought actually Arthur Morg had quite a pretty good game. He obviously made that high profile mistake where he didn't quite get to the try to bat it dead, but I thought he'd actually sort of seemed to settle into the fullback role for the first half an hour. It seemed like he was actually bedding in and seemed a lot more comfortable. I don't know what you think about that one.
Yeah, I like Arthur Morg, and I think he was very present in the game. I think it felt like he had a few more carries towards the line than maybe in his earlier appearances. So obviously he's grown in confidence that he is so readily selectable when Sam Tompkins is out. So I agree with that. I think David, Dr. Hideous's point there about one team seeming to get driven back in tackles all the time. Well, that if we did have the stats, I'm sure they would reflect what we saw last week from these two teams, which is that Wakefield's meters per carry was really low, which shows that shows two things. One, they were not intense with and without the ball, but it shows that Catalans were intense with and without the ball, and really at the metal. Obviously, late on, it slipped away. I guess that's because points difference doesn't matter in a cup game. So when the game was already won at sort of 36 points to 12, Catalan started letting players be off if they needed to be, sort of thing, and Wakefield took advantage. And it was good to see Arona. You know, he's a hard-working player, isn't he? To get such a slice through the defence try like that, he'd never experienced that before, you would imagine. He
just sold in the bright eyes, and they were all twinkling away.
Exactly, yeah. I think there was a few players to pull out for, I suppose, criticism or query over. David Fafita. Is it David? Yeah, it's David.
Yeah.
David Fafita was, I thought, really poor in this game. Now, he touches the ball a lot, but he was in one of those moods where he just seems to go crab across the players looking for tackle busts rather than actually looking to make an impact with scattering defenders, getting quick play of the balls, getting offloads. It wasn't that sort of thing. It was more like, I want to show you that I'm stronger than you, then I want to show you that I'm stronger than you. But really, because Catalans were playing with a greater level of intensity, they were closing everything down, and he couldn't beat off all the defenders. Basically, he's not Tommy Makinson, so he couldn't do that, and so I do think there's a question mark there over that. Whether he's still not fully fit, I'm not sure, because I don't know what shape he's come back into the season. I know, and I know he's been great for Wakefield, so it's kind of maybe a bit unfair. I also think that Folau was really off the pace in this game. Probably, a new baby arriving to his family doesn't lead to the greatest preparation for a match of rugby league, but this was not the player that everyone, remarkably, on the latest League Express poll, seems to be clamouring to have at their clubs now. Blows my mind, that one too. But yeah, so those two players were players probably that the audience would have heard of and expected to do well, and kind of bigged up a bit by the commentators and stuff, and they didn't deliver. But on the flip side, there was lots of players who did deliver. David Mead was fantastic, and it was the first time really that Josh Drinkwater was outstanding, I think, in his second spell with the Dragons. He just loves the Challenge Cup for the Dragons, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think one player, if you get is Ryan Hampshire and that blooming stupid kick.
I think Ryan Hampshire's been generally poor in the last few weeks, if I'm honest. But lots of things. There's issues for Trinity that they need to be addressing. But yeah, they've had problems with short turnarounds, lots of injuries. But yeah.
Yeah. What else is there? So I suppose the two other questions. One, did it go over the post?
It must have for all the officials to have given it.
I think what it was is the camera angle made it look less certain than you would have done at ground level. I think the camera angle made it look more iffy. I mean, not that it made a blind bit of difference to anything.
The bigger issue, and we've talked about this for years at Huddersfield, ever since Luke Walsh's drop goal, not drop goal conversation, is they need taller posts. If they had the posts that they have at ANZ, we wouldn't be having to have this conversation.
Or even the bigger flags on the top of them or something. Make it more prominent. Second question: what was the fight about?
Well, the fight seemed to be a carryover from last week's game, because if you remember in last week's game, I know you didn't get to catch much because you were camping, but last week's game, McAlorum and Navarrete were right at each other all through it, and this game they didn't seem to get together until this incident, and then McAlorum, he put his hand across Navarrete's face, didn't he? I think that should have been the first offence, and I'm not sure if it was picked up. But then Jay Pitts decided to run in from the other side of the pitch because because there's a carryover on that particular battle from last week. And that's what started the fight. But there were some almighty slaps that were thrown in that fight, weren't they? Yeah,
it was quite spectacular. But you were like, come on, just someone go for it. But unfortunately, do you think the yellow cards went to the right place? I kind of agreed. I think that was right, and I think reversing the penalty was probably fair.
They were the right players to get the yellow cards. I'm not convinced reversing the penalty was fair, but I don't think the referee saw the original offence, if I'm being honest. I think they blew up for something else. I'm not sure, but that's the kind of impression I got, because it's almost like does the running across reverse it enough when the